All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Hockey Jersey Addicts. It's Dan, aka Van Can Fan 75, and today I have the pleasure to be joined by another amazing Pittsburgh Penguins jersey collector and addict, Pens jerseys, adequately named, also known as Josh. Josh, thank you so much for being on the show today. Why don't you say hi to all of our listeners out there?
Yeah, hey man, thanks. Really appreciate you having me on. I got to say I've really enjoyed. I think you might have like 5 to 6 some episodes now. I've just really loved listening to those this year. It's been fantastic. So I'm really thrilled to be here. Thanks.
Oh, well, thanks a lot. I maybe need to make your trivia questions a little easier later just to keep you happy because you've been such a good supporter. And everyone's been passing it. So I'm like, come on, maybe I'm making this a little too easy. But no, I'm just kidding. I really appreciate your support too. I want to kind of start at the beginning with you about exactly how you go from casually owning potentially just one hockey jersey to deciding one day, you know what? I think I need to make a 7-part video series on how to customize your own jersey. So take us through the journey for you a little bit.
Yeah. So dirty secret, my first jersey actually wasn't a hockey jersey. It was in fact and it gets dirtier too, a fake Troy Polamalu Steelers jersey. It's kind of interesting that I feel like most of us, at least a couple times I've heard so far in your different episodes, people admit to that. Yeah, I mean that's just where we seem to start. A
Yep,
lot of us kind of get duped by that first fake jersey.
for sure.
um,
Yep.
um, but yeah, actually, like I said, my family actually was a football family. Being from Pittsburgh, everybody's a Steelers fan. Um, and just growing up, my house was a Steelers household. Uh, we really didn't have cable until I was probably in middle school. And just the availability to watch games and such were mostly relegated to whatever you could get over the air. So in that case, a lot of it was just whatever was on the major network. So Steelers, here we go. And
Hmm.
as far as the other teams in the city, the Pirates were and have been not great since I was in about second grade. Uh,
Hey, Cubs fan,
and
no explanation needed. Yep.
um, and quite honestly, it's looking back, it's a shame. As you mentioned, my focus is entirely on just the Penguins, and so it's really sad for me to know that my entire childhood, I'm honestly I've missed all of the Mario and Yager heyday years. I missed those early cups. I was aware it was happening, but I never got to watch them live. Um, and it wasn't until probably uh, geez, I would say maybe early 2000, 2001, something like that. Um, my now wife, my girlfriend at the time, her family was a huge hockey family, huge Penguin family. Um, her parents were divorced, and whenever I would go visit her at both houses were huge hockey families. So it was just like, wow, I've got this huge two family system to really kind of teach me the game and learn whatever I can. Um, so I'm very proud to say that my wife is what got me into hockey. She's very excited whenever I admit that. um, but yeah, around 2009 or so, I bought my first what I thought was authentic Steelers jersey. I was an enormous Troy Polamalu fan.
He
He's
was
just
head and
one of the
shoulders above the rest.
yeah, yeah, very nice. You had that one teed up for a couple seconds, didn't you?
I did, for sure.
uh, um, yeah, I mean, he's just one of these players that was just so interesting to watch. I've never seen somebody else like him play football like that, and so uh, 2009 was around that time. It was 2008, 2009, with those first couple of years of the Crosby Malkin era that they were
Mm,
going to the Cup, and we had our little stint in Pittsburgh as City of Champions because the Steelers were
mhm.
at and winning Super Bowls at the same time, and I've always wanted an authentic jersey, so I went out and I thought I got an authentic football jersey, and wouldn't you know it? I mean, it still looks pretty decent, but within a couple of weeks of buying it, every time around Super Bowls, Stanley Cup, whatever, you always see on the local news these little segments about, oh, how to tell if you're buying, fake
Mhm.
merchandise.
Mhm.
And dang, yeah, I'm pretty sure that got me. um, but after that, like I said, I've been at that point, 2009, about 8 or 9 years into being a hockey fan, and um, even as much as it sucked, knowing that I got that fake jersey, finally feeling the heavyweight quality, what it was like or what it could be like. I was like, I really I want to start looking into hockey jerseys, like that growing up as a kid, that diagonal Pittsburgh that they just kind of did the reverse retro
Mhm.
for this year. That was one of my favorite jerseys growing up, and it was my wife's also. Um, and then like '92, looking back, seeing that angry penguin, I was like, I gotta do this. So um, I hopped into eBay and just every day, just started looking around on eBay, searching every day, and eventually I found somebody that was selling a a Yager of the diagonal Pittsburgh jersey. Um,
You like your players with big flowing black manes of hair coming out the back, eh?
yeah, actually, speaking of which, both him, Latang's another one of my favorite players. I've
Oh, yeah.
actually, speaking of, I've spent this whole year. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to work. Working from home. I can wear a hat absolutely if I want to for work during the day. I'm gonna let the hair grow out. I've gotten a couple of Yager comments this year, so
I still think if you send in a jersey to be customized to Yager, it should come back with a free like mullet wig. I think that would just make me a customer for life. But sorry to sidetrack you
no, no,
there.
that's
But please continue. It's great.
it's all related. Um, no, so I found this Yager jersey, the diagonal Pittsburgh model from '93, and it wasn't very expensive. It was like maybe nine, and uh, quickly it was a buy it now. I think I bought it off this person, and then I was like, you know what? I love that it's Yager, but who knows? I'm gonna throw Hail Mary, send them a private message and see if they have anything else. Message that ended up being this lady, and I said, do you have any other jerseys by chance that you're selling? She goes, believe it or not, I actually have another one that's hanging in the closet. It's my son's. It's the same jersey, and it's a Mario. She said they're both the exact same size 44. I'm a smaller guy, and my wife's a pretty small girl. Um, and I said, well, would you be willing to sell that one too? Way to bury the lead. That's the best one.
Right.
Uh, so she goes, you know what? Let me get back to you. Give me a day or so. I'll ask my son because honestly, since the day I bought it, it's just hung in the closet. Both of these jerseys had the tag still on them. It was amazing.
Oh,
Um, so she messages me back the next day, and she goes, "Yeah, he said for $120 it's yours." And I was like, "Yes, sold."
accept funds. Accept
Right,
funds.
right. So I was pumped. These both come through the mail, and I get them both, and it was just that first time, you know, getting to actually what was a real authentic jersey, being able to hold it, feel the weight of it, feel the different materials. It's like, man, I've never, I played sports most of my young life growing up, and these chintzy uniforms and whatnot, jerseys for youth sports and stuff, and being able to feel that was just so cool. Um, and actually, another quick side story, believe it or not, my wife doesn't even remember this. I've learned this yesterday. Uh, but whenever I gifted the Lemieux to her for Christmas that year, and again, that's her favorite jersey. Lemieux's her favorite player. I go over to her house that year, and um, I throw the Lemieux jersey on first, throw my Yager on top of that, and then I put my winter coat on. And I think I'm being really cool and dramatic, whatever. I come over and uh, said, "Oh, hey, I got you a Christmas present. I think you're really gonna like." And I take my jacket off, and she sees the diagonal picture. She goes, "Oh my God, is that for me?" I said, "Yeah." And I kind of turn around. She sees the Yager. She goes, "Oh, I mean, that's really cool. I think that's really awesome. I've always really wanted to look." I was like, "Wow, what? How convenient is that?" And I pulled it off, and she sees the Lemieux underneath. I was like, "Hey, I got us a pair. We can, go to the games together. Wear the dynamic duo together, whatever." She was super excited. So fast forward to literally yesterday, and earlier this year, she had wanted the reverse retro jersey because, like I said, it plays off of her favorite jersey
Mhm.
from whenever she was a kid. And I kind of replayed the same thing. I kind of packed them in a big box, and I put the reverse retro jerseys at the bottom. Then I kind of layered it back up so that whenever she opened the box, the Yager was on top, the Lemieux that I got her was underneath that, and then the reverse retro. Again,
Mhm.
thinking I'm being really funny, really cool. And she opens it up and she sees the Yager and she lifts it up, and it was almost like an exact repeat. She's like, "Wow, this is so cool. Like, don't we already have this?" And I was like, "Yeah, maybe. Keep looking." So she digs through the box, sees the Lemieux, then she sees the reverse retro, and she's like, "Oh wow, that's." She loved it. It was amazing. But after it was over, I was like, "You do remember that that's the way I gifted you the Lemieux like all those years ago, right?" She goes, "What? No, that's not true." I said, "Yeah, it definitely is. So that's a fail."
Oh
um,
my gosh, that's so awesome. I love that story though. It's like maybe back then, like her eyes just got so wide that like the peripheral parts of the story just like were forgot or whatever. But
yeah, so that was a win because she liked the jersey, but a fail because she forgot all of it. But that's okay.
that's
Um,
but to take it to that level of even to gift it like that, that's pretty cool, man. You know,
hey, hey, you win some, you lose some.
I can relate to that. I the way I have my Pittsburgh jersey, I have a 92 Paul Coffey,
Oh,
and I got it because I was buying a Winnipeg Jets original like CCM vintage one, and then I wrote them and was like, by the way, do you have any other jerseys? And they were like, well, I've got this other one just hanging up in the closet. I was like, and it's customized to Paul Coffey. Like, that's
yeah,
awesome. Like with
yeah,
the A on it and everything and the 77, like send that over. Like,
yeah.
come on. Like you're saying, don't bury the lead. Like that
Mm,
would have but it's just funny how sometimes that is worth like everyone out there listening. If somebody has a jersey that you really like and you're like also collecting, definitely ask that person if they have more, because I've gotten like a
yes.
few towards the same collection I'm building by asking that. Oh, I didn't think anyone would want that. Well, I do. And I'm going to try to not act super excited that you have one right now. And please sell it to me. Thank you very
Oh,
much.
absolutely. I mean, I can't even. You're absolutely right. If you didn't say it, I was gonna ask. You just don't know. I mean, little old ladies have this stuff sitting in the house, like their kids stuff is just still hanging there that they don't, not that they don't care about, but it just they outgrew it or whatever. Just ask. Exactly the same thing. I Years ago, this is probably maybe the second purchase I made on eBay. Um, I'd just been scouring it every day for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I ended up finding. I don't even really remember why he was one of my favorite players, but something caught my eye the one day. A local guy here in Pittsburgh on eBay listed a game worn Jimmy Pack jersey, and it was just, oh man, I just love Jimmy Pack. Open that up, and it was a game worn jersey. I'm not going to be able to spend that kind of money on it. Um, just like most people starting out, like it was hard. It was easy to spend $100. Anything beyond 100, 150 bucks, like just starting out, it was like I can't really justify that, or it was hard
Mm-hmm.
to. Um, but again, like I messaged him. I was like, "Hey, man, like the pack is way outside of my wheelhouse, but do you have anything else Penguin related?" I was like, "I'd love to find something that same model." It was a '92 Cup jersey, and he goes, "Well, actually, believe it or not, yeah, I've got a size 52, which is too big for me, but considering what he said after that, I couldn't say no." So then I have a size 52. It was an original team issue jersey. He's like, you can look at the tag, like the hang tag. It's like you can tell it's team issue because there's no like punch mark for where they would hang like the center ice
Retail
collection
thing.
tag or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. So that was my first little introduction to any kind of like jersey history. It was that little tidbit right there. It's just I have this. It's not a team issued or I'm sorry, it wasn't a game issued for Mario, but it was a team issued jersey. He took the jersey, slapped Mario on it. It's got an authentic Badger Bob patch on it, authentic 75th anniversary, authentic 25th anniversary patch. And I said, "Oh my God, how much do you want for that?" And he goes, "I'll do like 350, something like that." And so, yeah, like I said, like that's 3 times more than anything that I bought so far, roughly. And so I was like, hey, look, do you think you can? I'm still in college. Funds are a little tight. Would you be willing to do even 325? And he said yes. So yeah, just ask. I mean, I couldn't believe it. It's still one of my most prized jerseys today. I mean, um, I ended up getting an authentic 92 patch, which I put on little. What I learned later was like the shape of the ultrafill swatch that they used to sew that over top of the 75th patch. So that is definitely one of my, and people use the term all the time, grails. I mean, I got it literally at the very beginning just because I randomly asked somebody. So yeah, definitely ask. You never know.
Yep. And that's awesome. And I'm a big fan of the 75th year, that 92 season, whatever you want to call it. And there's some really cool things even within that patch, like when the Blackhawks made it out of the regular season and into the playoffs, then the Stanley Cup playoff patch was sewn, or maybe it was the finals patch was sewn over the 75 patch. So when you sometimes see team issued or authentic ones up for sale, which for the record is also way out of my wheelhouse, you will also see like the ghosting of one patch underneath it. And to your point about jersey history, like that actually makes it, some people would be like, oh, that's a defect. It's like, actually that makes it more real. That's how you kind of know, actually. And it's like, oh, all right. And the rabbit hole begins, right? And then all of a sudden you're just like involved way more than you thought you were. And go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, that's a really good kind of like, to pull us back in. So like your original question, I mean, I think from seeing that original first jersey, like I said, just all the detail and the weight of it, how cool it was. And then to start learning all of the different sub details. So like you just mentioned, the ultrafill swatch material that they used to put the cup patch over the 75th. Little tidbits about like that retail hang note that seller told me about. Just the different details on being able to figure out the authentic patches versus not for like 91 and 92 cup patches. It's so hard to find, and just being able to look at one just via photo and say, yep, that's a real thing. That hunt, I think, is really what got me into all this. And I mean, obviously at this point, it's you're all aware, I'm a big jersey collector. I freaking love patches. I got a huge patch collection. My dad was a pin collector. I've got all these freaking Penguins and NHL related pins hanging on a felt banner on the door over my left
cool.
ear.
Nice.
It's just that drive to find all this history. Like, are any of my jerseys, worn by a superstar in a game? No, but it's still in a way kind of preserving that team history, the hockey history, that kind of thing. I think that's some of the coolest things to me, and that's what really kind of got me into all of this.
Are you aware of the NHL's patch book?
I am not, I don't think.
So this might ruin you. They, as a patch guy and also someone who likes, using that to help with history, back in the 90s as other commemorative stuff to do the 75 year, they also came out with a patch, embroidered patch that you could collect. And there was something like 30 or 35 of them, maybe even a little bit more. And they included teams that were existing in the NHL right now, but they also included patches of teams that didn't even really make it into the formal NHL record books and stuff like that. Or you'll see one for like in the collection for the Portland Rosebuds, and you're like, who the hell are they? and you're just fascinated because the embroidery work is also really cool, but you should check into that. It's pretty fun. Anyway,
that sounds really cool. And that actually, really quick, that kind of makes me think of, again, back to the details. I don't even remember what year it was, maybe in the 70s at some point. Even just things like, I remember seeing on the Penn jerseys one of those years, as a remembrance to, I don't think it was a player, it might have been a coach or something that had passed away. They had this black strip that they put on the arm, I think. So it wasn't a patch, but it kind of was. And if you didn't dig into those details, you probably never even would have known, especially back then, what it was. So yeah, that kind of stuff's really cool.
Yeah, this is probably a great point to give our buddy Chris Delorme a shout out, because this guy is making some really cool books about
Mm,
this history of the NHL related to jerseys or patches. And he's got one that came out called The History of the Hockey Jersey. And he's working on a new one directly related to the Pittsburgh Penguins history, and that one outlines the 50 plus years of hockey for the Penguins. So there's people out there that are doing a really good job of trying to capture the history, both at the NHL level at large, but also for specific teams. I think this is his maybe like second specific team book. He did one for the Ottawa Senators. He
hmm
also did one for he's doing one for the Penguins, and he's done two for the NHL, like
mm,
overall. And really, really interesting stuff. Highly recommend you guys do a Google search for the Jersey book or the history of the hockey jersey by Chris Delorme. But I'm not bringing him up just as a shout out, but also just to like say, as a Penguins collector like yourself and someone who likes patches or just the jerseys, it's probably one of the coolest things. And I know you agree with me because we're both addicted to hockey jerseys, but I think a cool way of showing someone the history of your team is through hockey jerseys. Like you can
yeah,
visually take them through the history of their team and point to the jersey as ways of indicating, what this has done to the team over time. So
yeah. No, no apologies necessary. Literally, I have notes here for myself while we talk, and if you weren't going to bring them up, I was. So,
good.
no, it was quite honestly, going back to what got me into all of this. I don't remember when exactly it was, but I ended up finding the old Ice Jerseys forums years ago. Um, just as I couldn't find as much stuff on eBay, I figured I'd start looking up different forums. I found, some of the like GameWorn.net forums, and it was related, but not really. And nobody really sold what I was looking for there, but it was a good step. And then eventually, I don't know if it was through one of them, but I ended up finding Ice Jerseys. And
Mm.
um, Chris actually was definitely the biggest source of information for me trying to learn what I was doing as I was trying to find these different jerseys, learning some, backgrounds. Little did I know he was working on the first jersey book, like you mentioned. I'm sure. I don't know how long it took him to bring it all together, but I know, looking back, like he was constantly bringing jerseys in, reselling them. What I ended up learning later was, he's finding these jerseys. It's a huge labor of love. Being able to get these jerseys in, take photos of them. I think he has a section of it up on his webpage about it. A picture, I think, of him or maybe his assistant, like up on a chair, taking a picture of the jersey on a white background. He was doing all
Mm-hmm.
this work for his book. He just had so much information. And I think you said, and maybe it was the episode with Dex previously, just people's willingness to be able to share freely. Now, in this case, he's selling the book, but I will gladly buy that book every day of the week. It's got so much great information in it. And, in the context of the forums, he was always going out of his way to share information and, teach people. And especially for someone like me that was still so new and at the time didn't quite have the eye for the detail and was easily fooled by, if anybody remembers, the old Griffin Food special they call these are called Griffin Food, just sold these notoriously bad fake jerseys. And on a quick glance, I wasn't quite able to figure them out at first. And just his willingness to help anybody and everybody on those forums. I have basically three key people that just I've absorbed everything from, at least Penguins related. Um, and he's definitely at the top on my list. The other two being Joe Toman, that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
resells all the jerseys for the team, back the actual game worn jerseys. I have very little, interaction with him. I've only ever bought one thing from him, but my God, he's not too far from where I live, maybe a little less than an hour. And I bought I don't even remember who the player was at this point. I was on a hunt for a gold toe jersey, the '88 version of the Pens jersey, and he had one, some lesser known name for sale, and I bought it from him, online. And I asked about shipping and stuff. He goes, "Yeah, I mean, if you're local, you could always just stop up at my office and take a look and see what else is here." And I was like, "Well,
Come to the Willy Wonka
yeah,
chocolate factory.
right, right." And it was amazing. If my wife was free, my God, I would have loved to have taken her to see all this. Um, but for anybody who else doesn't know, he's he's like I said, the guy that buys all of the game worn jerseys from the team, and then he resells them. He's the official reseller.
Hmm.
Uh, but he's just got just racks and racks and racks of all of these game worn jerseys from the Penguins. But then he also has his own personal collection. And oh my God, just walking in, it was amazing. Like I got the same smile on my face right now that I did then. It was just seeing, like, we were in the big warehouse, this one garage, and he showed me, I think it was like 2 or 3 racks of, I don't remember what season it was, maybe 2012, of all of the jerseys he had from that season he just got in. And he's showing me, like, just nonchalantly, "Oh yeah, here's Crosby, here's Guerin, whatever." I don't even remember, just the massive names. Oh my God, this is so incredible. And he goes, "Oh, you want to go to the other room to see some more?" I was like, "The other room?" There's just multiple rooms he took me to, and then eventually, like, we evened up. I paid him. He gave me the jersey. It was in his office, and just, my God, walking into his office again. This is something you'll see if you go to Chris's website. That he has a photo, like, just kind of nonchalantly back in a cabinet. He was showing me all these different jerseys, and he kind of pulled some aside, and here's a couple of Bobby casually sitting in a cabinet behind his desk. Oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah, it is kind of ridiculous. It's amazing, ridiculous. That's what it is. And I know the only way you can be so seemingly nonchalant or casual about dropping just so much history and significance of a jersey in such a blasé way is because you've been doing it for so long. I
Yeah.
don't think he intentionally is trying to come
No.
across that way. It's just like
Yep.
he's not numb to it. It's just this is his existence, and it's like, damn,
Yeah.
dude, I'm not ready for this. Like
Yep.
it's crazy. I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm on that page right now looking it up. It's just racks on racks of history.
Yeah.
And man, it's great that you have had that experience. We're not going to advocate for people to go check out someone's house. I know if in the wrong circles, if I said to you, like, "Hey, do you want to come over to my house and check out my basement one day?" Like, that would be creepy. But you'd get down there and you'd be like, "Oh, okay, something's going on. This guy has got too much quarantine time on his hands," and you'd be right. Um, I'm curious. I think I know who the other of the three of these people that you are going to mention is.
Mhm.
Who is it? Is it does his last name start with a B?
Yeah, actually it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eric Barr.
Hmm.
He is, and this is no particular order.
Right.
Eric, just talk about. So you just mentioned how, like, for Joe, it was probably very, this is his existence, and it's just he's done this for so long. To him, it's also a business. So, like, he's just very matter of fact about some things. Um, but obviously, he's got a huge passion for it. But Eric was kind of like the exact opposite. I met him, and I'll be quite honest. We've in person interacted once or twice again, and it was. You mentioned not advocating going to check out somebody's house or whatever. The nice thing is at least in Pittsburgh, obviously they didn't do it this year. It's been quite a few years now. They've had just a Penguins hockey jersey expo. I think this year they had planned on moving it to Cranberry near the Lemieux practice facility. But for most of the years prior, it was at the big red church building directly next to the PPG Paints Arena. And Joe has all of the game worn collectors have every single jersey. You walk in and it's Penguins heaven. Every major, you had Joe, you had Eric,
Hmm.
Casey Samuelson, who owns the Penguins Chronicles website. Casey's got a crazy collection of like some of the biggest Mario jerseys ever. Um, so you can absolutely see all these in person. I mean, Joe and Eric have even made a display quite a few years back, I think a couple of years ago, at a Penguins game for leading up to the holidays. I think they kept doing different theme nights. So there was like a 70s and 80s theme, and they brought in all their 70s jerseys. Oh, man.
That's the last thing any of us need is being contacted by the club being like, you can do a better job of showing the history than anyone else. Like our partners are just eye rolling at us. Like, see, you've just pumped his tires to a whole other level. There's no I can imagine the sense of pride that must have brought to those people too. Must have been so fun.
Yeah.
Because from everything I get from people like Eric and Joe, like they're as passionate. I don't want to like put their words in their mouth. I actually hope to have them on the show at one point and talk to them about it. But I feel like part of the reason that I'm collecting as well is to make sure some of the history of the game is preserved in some fashion. I don't know how. I'm just really making sure that people don't forget about this stuff and are aware of this. And it's just amazing how you can walk into a room and see one jersey and it leads to a conversation about something that you didn't expect, and it was valuable, like super valuable.
Right. And that was the thing with Eric. Whenever I met him at one of these the Pens jersey expos, I'd been aware of his name. I'd seen his personal website, rather than having anything like a Flickr or Instagram album. He had his own, I think it's Steel City Gamers website that I stumbled on. I think I found his stuff through like the GameWorn.net forums, and just looking at everything he had, like I was aware of what he had. And then whenever I ended up meeting him in person, I mean, the guy just had so much knowledge, and we literally sat there like, talk about somebody that like he could have literally his own podcast just talking about Penguin jerseys all day. That's what I felt like. I was sitting there in person talking to him about, like, I was just an audience member listening to him talk for probably 45 minutes just about how the team had, I think it was the year that they lost to the Islanders way back in the 70s or whatever. It was, I think maybe it might have been the year that they were up 3-0 and they came back, the Islanders came back and then just walloped us. And the team was so frustrated. I think he said that they threw away the jerseys, and they might have like stripped the crest off the jerseys. And he just talked at length, like 20 minutes just about the crest, like the amount of knowledge these guys had and willingness to be able to sit there and talk and teach you. Like I said, the three of us, there's definitely been more, way more. So many helpful people on Ice Jerseys forum, so many people that are helpful now on Reddit, on Facebook. But for me, those are the top three, especially Penguins related, because they just had so much knowledge that they were willing to just sit there and talk to you forever about.
Absolutely. And I mean, we don't want to speculate as to why they are so forthcoming with the information, but I believe a part of it is going back to how you got involved, and it's your origin story isn't too different from mine and a lot of others. And you even mentioned it, how you kind of get into it and then you might get duped into a fake. And then there's this part of you that doesn't want other people to have that experience. Or there's also this part of you that like will get to a stage of collecting where you'll recognize that, for me, I want to customize this jersey, but then you look over your shoulder and you realize you've got about 20 that you want to customize. And then you're like adding up the numbers and you're like, that's a lot of shipping and math and finances. I might want to do this myself instead. And so, that's also helpful when people will like point you in the right direction of this is where you should buy your kits from, or even people being willing to tell you like, oh, you're going to sew, you need these needles and this kind of thread and these suppliers, et cetera. It's like, why are you helping me? B, why do you know all of this? And it's all just because we spend not an exorbitant amount of time, or that's the wrong word. We enjoy how we're spending our time. We and people like Chris writing these books just want to curate the information for you to keep you involved with spending your time in this hobby, but not needing to spend 20 hours researching something I already know, you
Yep.
know? Move
Yep.
on, better the community in a different way, take those 20 hours and give back in another situation and sense. So I'm writing articles and doing a podcast. You're making movies. So what's going on there, and how can we like learn from you now?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is all flowing together so well. Back to Ice Jerseys again, and Chris, like he was doing so much unbeknownst to a lot of people. And he actually was the one that I learned a lot of stuff. How to he did full like text forum posts about how to strip a jersey, how to use acetone to pull off maybe any kind of residue or help up numbers, and he was just showing all these different things. I'm like, you know what? I mean, I've been artistic all my life. I can draw well. I can do digital art, all different things. And I'm fairly handy. And I was like, I think I can do this. And he's giving me literally like step by step written out in text with photos. I can definitely do this. He's making, like you said, so easy. Like, don't don't waste your time. Here's how to do it, and then maybe we can pick up some other things. So again, even more than Chris, he just happened to be one of the biggest contributors. So many people on that forum had so much knowledge, which was for me why earlier this year, when we thought that all that knowledge was lost when that forum went down, um, it was heartbreaking, because it was just, that is such a big piece of, like, if you want to call it my origin story, that forum is it, that had so many helpful people, so much information. It was a shame that it would be lost. Um, and kind of looking at Reddit now today, looking at Discord, looking at Facebook, I just kept seeing a lot of the same questions over and over and over again. Like, how do you strip a jersey? How do you? I think Dex may have made a. I think he made a tutorial on how to do that, and so a lot of those tutorials were kind of done and out of the way. They might have been scattered across the internet, but if you knew where to go, you could find them, or you could point other people in that direction. So, like you said, I don't recall ever seeing anybody really doing any kind of like how to sew videos. Because I mean, you nailed it on the head. That's exactly one of the biggest reasons why I started doing it myself, was because all the good places to go for the most part are up in Canada. So
Hmm.
for me to ship something to Canada and having to deal with the massive pain of dealing with the USPS to ship something to Canada, the customs and all that crap,
Hmm.
and then having them customize it, which isn't necessarily cheap. Um, I don't want to say it's expensive, but it adds up with the shipping there, the shipping back. And I was like, you know what? Let's see what I can do with this. Have them obviously do the work. I have a couple of shops that I deal with in Canada. They did do the kits for me. They send them back, and I send them on myself. So even just with the labor costs of them sewing it, a lot of times they'll, not charge you for that, obviously, because they're not sewing it to the jersey, but they'll make the kit and sew you just the kit, and it was amazing. But man, it was a lot of work, kind of getting set up at first, uh, with the confidence, not necessarily for me personally doing the work itself, just the confidence of actually like, wow, this is a lot of money. I could potentially mess up. Um, spoiler
Totally.
alert! Spoiler alert! There's not much you can actually mess up as long as you're careful, but um, it's kind of like how I always used to tell my mom. She was worried she'd like kill our computer if she hits the wrong button. I'm like, Mom, you can't nuke the computer by hitting one button. But this is kind of the same way, as long as you're careful. I had the added benefit of, back when I was in like third or fourth grade, I don't even remember why my mom got me involved with this, but she was fairly close with my third grade teacher. And maybe looking back, maybe it was just because my teacher knew that I was artistically inclined, and I was always getting, not yelled at, but kind of scolded in class because I was doodling in my notebooks and not paying attention to her lessons. um, she, she had a 4-H club after school. I don't know, once a week. I think I maybe went for maybe like a couple of months one year. And honestly, there was maybe like 8 of us. I was one of 2 guys in the class, and they just taught us how to sew. And I was like, you know what? sure, whatever. Like I wasn't too into sports just yet then. As far as like participating and playing, I wasn't a very good baseball player, and my mom suggested it, and I was like, okay, sure, I'll give it a try. I mean, who knew that all these years later, I'd actually be putting it towards something like taking that skill and putting it towards something sports related anyway. Um, but yeah, she taught us how to sew. I mean, I still have, it's kind of like shop class. Like I still have this stupid little bag that she taught us how to sew. When you use it, my family uses it for like a game bag that we play on the beach and stuff. Um, it was very basic stuff, but at least I, it was kind of like for me riding a bike. I had not touched a sewing machine since third or fourth grade. But I remembered as soon as my mom had a sewing machine at home. She had passed away in 2011 when I had not started this journey with customizing jerseys just yet. But I knew it was there, and then I could just go home and grab it and start messing around. And I mean, literally the second that I pulled that machine out, it was just like riding a bike. Like I knew exactly how to thread the thing. I knew exactly how to, mess with the settings on it to get it to work. And from there, it was just like I said, getting the confidence to actually do it. Um, so I would say and I'd say this in a couple of those videos, my first suggestion would be to anybody trying to do this is get a machine. And if you strip some jerseys before, take those, never throw away those old numbers. Those are great resources for you if you're interested in doing this to start messing around. Like I just started with a t-shirt and threw an old number on it and just go to town on it. I even still use those just to, if it's been a while since I've used the machine, I get a little cautious because one time I kind of not destroyed a number, but I kind of messed it up a little bit because the machine wasn't set quite right. And just kind of messed up and it didn't look the greatest. So now I use those always right before I start a new job. I take one of those old numbers and just run a quick zigzag straight down through it just to make sure everything looks right. And then, okay, throw that back in the drawer, like actually work on the new jersey.
That's pretty smart. I definitely would have tossed out some numbers thinking I'm never going to use this number 90 from the back of a Philadelphia Flyers jersey ever again, but
right.
smart.
Yeah. I mean, it's until I started doing it, I never would have thought about it either. And probably the first couple of jerseys that I did have that I stripped, I probably threw them away. But like once I started getting into this, I was like, you know what, let's just keep those. And even now, like I kind of offer those around. If I've seen a couple of people recently say, "Oh, yeah, I'd really like to do this, but I have nothing to practice on." I was like, "Look, if you want them, pay me a couple of dollars for shipping, and I'll send you. I've got a whole stack of them sitting here. You can use these for practice and just give it a go. See if it's for you." But yeah, really, the thing that got me started doing this was really to focus on saving money. But then again, for me, being artistically inclined, I was interested and willing to kind of take my artistic abilities and kind of apply them. I apply them to my work life, and now I'm applying them to something I collect. So that was pretty cool for me. And then, like you said, I'm looking at how all these other people are sharing their knowledge and what can I offer. Well, I've been doing this for a couple of years now, and now I see all these people asking, like I said, the same questions. How do you go about sewing? Like, well, where can I learn how to do this? Whatever the case might be, I keep seeing this over and over and over again the last month, couple months, this whole year, the last 2 years, especially on Reddit. It has such a huge fan base of people that interact there. I'm thinking to myself, well, unfortunately, with everything going on with the world this year, I'm working from home. I've got all summer, and I've literally got a stack of 8 jersey kits sitting on the table behind me. I've got a camera. I can do this. Again, with what I do at work, I kind of know my way around some video editing software. Let's give it a go and see what we can do. And then hopefully, I hosted them on YouTube. Obviously, that's one of the best places to do that. But also for me, it gave me some comfort knowing that, going back to the ice jerseys, if that site goes down, all that information is lost. A lot of image hosting websites have gone down over the 10, 11 years that I've been, collecting. That information's gone. Hopefully YouTube's going to be around for a long time. Place to host that information and knowing that people can come back and hopefully find it if they ever need it to. So yeah, that's really what kind of got me to do those videos. I've, like you said, I had some things that I felt I could share. all the knowledge that I have now about teams specifically has come from other people. Here's somewhere that I can give back. Here's somewhere that, like you said, I can help save people time learning the same things. And then maybe they can offer us, everybody else, some new information later on down the road instead. I think that's really interesting the way you put that.
Yeah, and also thanks for telling us like that story. It's really good to hear, and also it sounds like between how you got involved with sewing and also jerseys, it's a very family related thing, which is just interesting to hear about. Everyone's got some, kind of thread pulls back towards their origins and roots, and it's wonderful to hear yours. And what a wonderful kind of legacy as well. I know you remember your mom for a lot of things, but that's pretty neat. And it's kind of funny how you're using the uh, you can use your game used sewing kit bag to work on your game used jerseys if you want, and just I appreciate you saying how you found a way to give back, because that's what I've been trying to figure out how to do too. I played hockey for a very long time. People have been encouraging me to translate that into coaching, and I definitely want to do that when COVID is behind us. And I've interviewed some people that are part of a podcast to raise awareness over the sport of blind hockey called the Dented Puck podcast. And they're like, dude, you should like totally use your online instruction skills to help us put together like a coaching program for that too. So I'm really encouraged by where my skills are going to lend itself back to hockey in an unexpected way. And so I'm looking forward to 2021. You have to, you got to stay positive, right? So just wanted to add to that as a more of a comment rather than like any kind of follow-up question, but also to use it as a little bit of a transition into talking a little bit about how we're both involved with giving back with sport in our communities in some way, shape, or fashion. Mine is I'm a big advocate for Dog Nation Hockey Foundation. They are a nonprofit out of Denver, Colorado that does work to help families in need. And those families are usually those related to hockey in some way. But aside from their day-to-day initiatives, they're also trying to raise funds to build the first 3-rink fully accessible ice rink system for those that participate in things like sled or sledge hockey. And also just to show that you can build new facilities with accessibility in the front of your mind, and it doesn't take away from the able-bodied person's experience. And just to have these kinds of facilities is really important. Just to be made aware that these programs exist is also very important. So that's my soapbox and spiel. I know that where you work, your company also does a lot to try to give back, and it could be at sport at a general level, could be very focused at the youth movement. But I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about that. Mention any companies or programs that you're really passionate or proud of as well, and tell people potentially how they could be involved if they wanted to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I mean, first and foremost, you and I talked on the side before this quite a bit, and you'd made some of those things that you're involved with known to me, and I started doing some research, and especially the Dog Nation thing, like that was so cool to read about. It was so cool to see. They're being very targeted, and they're finding ways to be involved and help. In some cases, people that really need it. Well, in a lot of cases, people really need it, and I just it really spoke to me seeing some of the videos, seeing their origin story, seeing like some of one of their one of their founders, I believe, passed away quite a few years ago, like that. A lot of that really spoke to me on a personal level. And I mentioned my mom passed away. Now, this isn't necessarily hockey or jersey related, but since I was probably in about second grade up until when she passed away, she had multiple sclerosis. Um, and so for me, the MS Society is something that I really am passionate about. Knowing that she, spent all of her life suffering through that, and it's got
Mhm.
people that are diagnosed have varying levels of uh, impact from the disease. But in her case, it could range anywhere from just slight miscoordination or, eyesight problems, all the way up to being completely bedridden. I have a previous coworker that I used to work with. Her mom was literally in a bed, and I don't think she could move from like the neck up. So wild range of impact. I'm sure she was never happy with it, but I would say fortunately my mom fell somewhere in the middle. She was still able to kind of walk on her own by the time she passed away. She couldn't go long distances. Going to things like theme parks are really hard for her. She, near the end of her life, we kind of had to like push her around in a wheelchair for the day, which, kind of took a hit to the pride, especially for somebody, to kind of pull this back to sports. Somebody that grew up, she played basketball growing up. She was very active. You mentioned family before. Like some of the most vivid memories of my life with my mom. She passed away when I was 25, but like as a kid, her taking me just like any other kid to my practices, my games. She never missed a practice, never missed a game, no matter how terrible I was. Like playing
Hmm.
elementary basketball, my elementary basketball team never in 3 years won a single game. Like it was awful, but like she was still there for everything, And some of my most vivid memories were the one or two times after she started, getting any kind of physical limitations to the disease, were her walking out into the driveway while I was shooting some hoops in the driveway by myself, walking out, telling me dinner was ready or whatever, telling me to throw the basketball to her. She walks out into the driveway, takes one nonchalant shot at the hoop and walks away, and like just swish. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that's amazing. And back then, I didn't think anything of it, but looking back now, man, that all kinds of just moments like that are all, for me, for whatever reason, all tied around sports. Like I remember her and my dad taking me to a Pittsburgh Pirates game when I was little, before they kind of took a nosedive. Um, one or two times. I've been a huge Steeler fan all my life, but I've only ever been to because tickets are so hard to get. It's kind of like the trying to get
Right.
Canadians tickets or Maple Leafs tickets. Um, I mean, yet again, like ultimately, what led to my mom's death was she had a stroke, and it was a couple of days, um, maybe a couple of weeks right before Super Bowl 45, I think it was, when the Steelers played the Packers. Um, my dad had an extra set of tickets. My mom and him were on vacation, the playoff game against the Ravens, and go to the game, have a great time. I come home, I'm talking to her on the phone, and she's telling me about how she's just this worst headache of her life, and she can't even see straight. And by the next week, that really was like the last conversation I ever had with her. The next week, she had a stroke. The day right before the AFC Championship game. It was just it's crazy how all that works out. She literally passed away a day or so after the Super Bowl that year. Um, and even going back to when I was really little, I mentioned earlier Troy Polamalu and like how he was just so unique to the sport. He to me he was like a Mario, like a Gretzky. Not necessarily that he was the best in the league, but like he had such a unique impact on the game, and being able to watch him play was just so incredible. Um, my mom used to say she was an enormous Pirates fan as a kid. She would tell me about watching Roberto Clemente play and how he was just so unique for baseball in the same way I felt Palomalu was for football. Um, so yeah, for me, like just my mom's disease and death at a fairly young age for me and my brothers and sisters has been being so young is kind of a defining moment in our life. a couple of years after my mom passed away. My wife's mom passed away, um, brain cancer, and
Oh, wow.
not to be
Jeez.
so heavy, but like yet again, like I said, this was ended up going to be my future mother-in-law, and one of my two hockey families that taught me everything I know. She was a big part of that. Like she was always buying us tickets to go to the games. My wife and I, we went to multiple games together. Maybe we sat across the arena from her and my stepfather-in-law, but it's just so weird how, for at least for me, everything family oriented is always related to sports in some way or another, like major life moments in one way or another. Um, Even some more happy things. Maybe my wife and I, we've been together since I was 15. I'm in my mid
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm in my mid 30s now, and like I said, she got me into hockey. So being able to experience things with what would be my future wife, things like going to the first Winter Classic game in Buffalo was just amazing. Um, we make it a priority to try to go to as many arenas as we can. We've crossed off too many yet, but we've been to, I think, New Jersey, Columbus, Toronto. Um, so long story short, while not a lot of this results necessarily within any causes, like I said, it's for me, the MS Society is big just because it's so family oriented. And I know, at least to kind of tie that back to hockey, Jared McCann on the Penguins, his mom also has MS, and he makes a big point to do a lot of fundraisers for the MS Society. And It was very, yet again, it hit me pretty heavy, kind of like whenever I read about Dog Nations, kind of seeing him go through a lot of the same things that my family did with our mom. Um, and knowing now that, at least in a way, it's kind of tied to I think that's one for me, definitely the MS Society. I've done some fundraising for them over the years, some events, bike rides, and stuff like that. Um, but maybe on to a bit of a more happy topic. Another one is, you mentioned where I work. Originally, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to, kind of make this part public. I'm kind of a private guy, but I think it's so cool what they do. I work for Dick's Sporting Goods, and they have a foundation, and part of that foundation is a drive that they call Sports Matter, excuse me. And it's definitely, it's a big point of pride, I think, for a lot of people that work there. That what the company does is they go around, and whether you know uh, sports leagues or sports teams around the U.S. They donate big, sometimes sizable checks to these teams to keep them afloat so people can play, whether they're underfunded or they're maybe their team has had funding cut entirely through the school system, whatever it might be. Um, I think that's huge because, yet again, like tying this all back to family, like I can't imagine, no matter how crappy I might have been at some of the sports I played, um, even just like the memories I have of watching sports with my family, like I can't imagine not having that. So to me, that's a huge, really huge thing, knowing that like they're actually helping kids, giving them the money in a lot of cases to be able to continue playing when maybe sometimes they otherwise wouldn't be able to. So um, I don't know exactly how long that they've been doing this foundation, but again, to kind of pull this back to hockey, they last couple of years, I think they've done twice now. They've done a joint fundraising drive, basically with the Penguins, where um, for warmups, like I said, I think it's been twice now. For warmups, one particular game, they took Dick's Sporting Goods. Their main color is green. They've taken a green Penguins jersey, and they have a special Sports Matter patch, and then on the back of the jersey, the large numbers for the player have a bunch of like special. It's like a very special kit you can't get anywhere else. Well, at least a legitimate one. You can only get it by like having purchased one of these jerseys from the team. The customizer won't, for obvious reasons. Kind of like with the special warm up jerseys for the cancer benefit nights. They won't offer that to anybody else, just the team.
Right.
Um, And so they've taken those jerseys, they autograph them, and they put them up for auction. And I mean, they've raised a considerable amount of money, I think, over the last couple of years doing that. And it was very interesting. Last December, I actually, just out of luck, happened to be there for a holiday kind of party, if you will. My team and I from work went. I just happened to be at that game, so it was very cool to be there and be a part of that for that night. But yeah, like I said, definitely the MS Society for me personally is big, but then also I think the good work that Dick's Sporting Goods does, helping to fund underfunded leagues and teams and such around the U.S. is it's pretty amazing.
It is. It's to kind of tie them together too. You know, a lot of what you were talking about with your family, and thank you for sharing such intimate memories. That's what they are, is they're memories that are being created from spending time together that just happen to be taking place at a sporting event. And there's a lot of opportunities that people don't get to have, whether it be playing sport or attending sports. So therefore, they're missing out on the opportunities to form friendships, memories, and just have the ability to experience life at an equal playing field, pardon the pun, that a lot of other people have, that it should be as accessible to everyone. And so, I mean, you look at the sportsmatter.org website for Dick's Sporting Goods, and like any good foundation, they want to educate you a little bit on why there is a problem so that then there are solutions. And when you read such obvious statistics that high poverty schools are 2.1 times more likely not to offer interscholastic sports, and that student athletes are more likely to get higher grades and aspire to attend college, those things go hand in hand. Or how 30% of the participation gap between children of lower and higher income families exists, and that it only costs between $100 and $500 per year per person for the majority of youth sports. You realize there's a significant impact that can be made, because in Dick's Sporting Goods' own words, why? Because participation in sports makes people better, not sport better. And so we continue to pour money and research into multiple sclerosis. I know that within the MS community, a big advocate for that has been a football player from the New Orleans Saints, who just recently passed away, I believe, but was tireless in his efforts to promote that. And there's a good example, like McCann, of using their sport platform to educate on a disease, but also tie it, excuse me, into sport in some way that makes people recognize that, like, we're all connected. This is a family thing. Him becoming a professional athlete is the byproduct of his family supporting him, and his family can't support him without, the means within the household. And there's just so many ways that you can draw how they're connected. And I think that's kind of the message that we should be conveying right now, is that you should be involved, because it has an impact and you can make a difference. And sometimes those measurable successes aren't a matter of how many people from a program end up becoming professional athletes. It's more like, how much time are you giving them to spend in development, or time away from things that would otherwise be detrimental to their lives, and things of that nature that aren't as easily quantifiable, but are significant in someone's life. So,
right. I mean, especially, monetarily, if you can even just consider, again, bringing it back to specifically now, dirty secret, I've maybe ice skated twice in my life and I'm not very good at it. But I'm aware of how expensive it is to play, the cost of the equipment, the ice time, like that's hard to come by in general. So, hockey specifically, like, it's been noted heavily how big of an impact players like Lemieux and Pittsburgh were for driving youth participation, or Gretzky, not just youth participation, but interest in general in LA whenever he was there. Um, Same thing with Crosby, but like Crosby, at least in modern day, I think he does like a little mini camp with a bunch of really young kids to teach them how to play hockey.
And if byproduct of the Tim Hortons Little Tykes hockey program.
About winning or whatever. I mean, it's obviously winning is a big portion of it. Nobody team, but like you said, a lot of it is just participation. And yeah,
Yeah, I mean, so my first ever date with my girlfriend was to a hockey game, and we also went to a Stadium Series game, and it was fun, and it has been fun to see her become more of a fan of sport and also of hockey because she's a girl from Texas who likes the warmth, and the idea of getting her to sit down for 3 hours and watch a hockey game outside at a mile above sea level in the winter was a big stretch. So I knew she really liked me at that point, which was really good. But, to your comment about how it makes me sad that people don't recognize the impact sport can make beyond just who wins or loses. I'll have to admit, as a sport guy through and through, it's been wonderful for my partner to show me other hobbies, interests, and things that she has that proves that same message. That whether it be something in the performing arts or just in all of her other interests, and I won't mention them, but they're extensive, I've become a more aware person of what hobby A, B, and C can do for someone in life in general. And so I just want people to be aware that like sport is definitely one of those things too. So give it a chance. I appreciate like people recognizing that, getting into something like hockey is really hard because the puck moves around really quickly, or football, it seems like you need a PhD these days to understand the rules. We recognize that as sports guys and fans, but there's a whole other thing going on. Look at the ceremonies happening before the puck drop, or the little things in the intermissions of the games that are never going to show up on TV. There's always something being promoted and trying to be raised the awareness of. So I just encourage people to look at sport from that lens, as I've started to apply that to other areas of my life and been very well rewarded as a result of it. So, yeah.
yeah. No, I mean, even just one last final thought, like just think of the people that you could interact with and meet, and maybe become lifelong friends. Maybe there's somebody you've met once, but still, just like all the different stories you could have, all the connections you could make. Um, People, like I said, you might never see again. My wife and I were at a game against, I don't even know who. I couldn't even tell you. A Penguin game, and we went down to the glass for pregame just to watch the warm-ups. And I happened to look under my chair, and so I found that there was a digital camera sitting there. And I don't know what to do. Like, if I take this to like the lost and found, somebody might not even ever go there. I flipped it on really quick. I was like, maybe it's somebody, like some evidence of like who this might be. Maybe they're sitting nearby and I can just hook them up with it really quick. I flipped it on and I see some pictures of guys. Like, we weren't playing the Canadians, and these guys were dressed in all Canadians jerseys, just happened to be at the glass right where we were just sitting a couple of minutes before then. And I was like, oh my God, this couldn't be more perfect. And as soon as the game started, we waited till the game actually started. We sat in our seat and I just looked up. I'm just scanning the entire arena. Boom, here they are, way up in the top row, the top section. There was maybe 5 or 6 of them. And we went up halfway through the game. And I'm glad, I'm glad I looked, because they didn't even realize that they lost it. And I was like, hey, did you guys lose a digital camera? And I'm like, I don't think so. And they went to look and I'm like, oh my God, yeah, we did. And so we were talking to these guys, and they were just making random road trips, different arenas, just to say that they've been there. And we ended up hanging out. I declined quite a few times, but they tried to buy me a beer, and I was like, no, really, I'm just glad you got your thing back. Like, what a cool story though, like being able to hang out with them, talk through a whole intermission, and I'll never see them again, but just that is just a cool little story.
that's really cool that you got to have that moment. I'm glad to hear they tried to buy you beers too. I assume they're from Canada. That's the Canadian thing to do. It's the least they could have. And
Well, it
that's
didn't matter how
awesome.
many times I said no. They actually did. They said, no, no, you're taking this. And they bought 2 beers and shoved them in our hands. And we
There you go. That's awesome. All right. Well, thanks for such a great chat. I definitely can't let you go without asking you some trivia questions. I think I enjoy it more than anyone else. But it's also a great opportunity for you to add to your patch collection. I just had Water Bottle on here last week, and I think she wanted a stand up for cancer patch or hockey fights cancer patch or something. Gosh, I should check my notes, but the only real rules here are that the questions change every time. There's sometimes multiple choice, true, false, whatever, but they're somehow related to the guest or what we've talked about and stuff like that. And I have yours centered around the Pittsburgh Penguins in some way, shape, or fashion. And from looking over a lot of jerseys, I'm sure you're familiar with the history enough to give this a go. So we're going to see how you do. Your first question is just you have to give me the year, okay?
Ooh,
and it's that the Penguins have it's related to the Pittsburgh Penguins jerseys as well.
mm-hmm.
So and you need to get 2 out of 3 correct to win. And your first question is that the Penguins have changed the colors and designs of their jerseys over the years for sure. But they've had a white jersey to complement whatever other jersey they have every single season of their existence, all the way dating back to 1967-68, except for 1 year. 1 year, for some reason, they don't have a white jersey. Do you know what season this is?
Oh, wow. Man, I was hoping you were going to bring it. That's actually, I'm not even sure that I realized that was the case. If I had to guess, I'm probably going to try and narrow it down, let's say to the early 80s sometime, because I'm pretty sure that there was maybe a year that they just had the yellow jersey, maybe?
You are very hot. Yep. That's exactly what it was. Yep.
I'm not sure that I was aware that they didn't have a white one, but oh man, let's say 82.
Okay. I mean, 83, 84, you were really freaking close. Yes. They introduced the yellow, from their typical white and black from 1980. They introduce a yellow the next year in 80, 81, and they kind of wear it sparingly on occasion. This is kind of before any kind of like true third jersey situations going on. And then in 83, 84, they wear gold exclusively at home for 1 season. And then 84 is when Mario Lemieux comes into the league. And there's some interesting thing here because I know, as like a Penguins fan, there's like a lot of passion around maybe Lemieux not liking the Robo pen and never wanting to see it come back and stuff like that. And researching this, I kind of believe that even more now because they don't have a white jersey. They even, starting the 84 season, are wearing the yellow jersey in the preseason, but rumor has it like Lemieux wasn't really digging it. And so they ditch the yellow and bring back the white. And
Yeah, because that is the only time in the preseason he did wear the yellow. That's interesting. Hey, no shame. That's a hard question. That's a good one. Dang.
Okay, well, we're sticking with Mario here. So your next question, Lemieux has some really cool history about him when it comes to goal scoring. He was incredibly hyped coming into his career, and he lived up to it right away by scoring on his first shot on his first shift in the NHL. So can't do much better than that. And he's also had a rather remarkable record like that will likely never be matched by any other player where he scored 5 goals how many different ways in one game?
5.
Correct. And
Yeah.
bonus, can you name all 5 different ways that he was able to score in that one game?
So even strength, power play. He had a penalty shot, I believe. Shorthanded. Oh, man, why am I forgetting?
Everyone can name 4. I mean, I know with enough time you'll get it. You already got the harder ones. It's empty net.
Empty net. Yeah, there it is. Jeez.
But
I mean, a lot of empty nets too.
Yeah, he did. He has the highest empty net per game ratio or something. It's super weird. I mean, people will look into that and be like, oh, his stats are inflated. It's like, also when you're down by a goal, you put your best players on the ice. And he wasn't obviously just good offensively because he's a huge guy with a long reach. So he's out there for defense too, you know? Yeah, very good. And your last question is sticking with Lemieux and goal scoring and stuff like that. So all of the following things that I'm about to tell you are true about Mario Lemieux. You have to tell me the one statement, though, of these 4 that is false. Okay? So 3 out of 4 of these are correct. You have to tell me which one is incorrect. And Mario Lemieux is the only player to ... And here's all of them. Mario Lemieux is the only player with 3 8-point games. Jesus Christ. He's the only player to score 30 plus power play goals in 2 different seasons. Wow. He's the only player with 70 plus power play points in a single season. Can you imagine that? Like, just people don't even get 70 points in a season, but to get just 70 alone on the power play. Oh my God. And then the last one is he's the only player occupying all of the top 10 places in the NHL record for points and assists in a season.
Repeat the last one.
He's the only player ever to occupy all of the top 10 places in the NHL records for points in a season and assists in a season. So the top 10 performances of points in a season, all top 10 of them of all time are all Mario Lemieux. All top 10 times of assists in a season, all top 10 of them, they're all Mario Lemieux. Is that correct? Or
I'll go with D. Yeah,
that's the reason why that is so interesting is because the only other person is Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah.
So the 2 of them own the top 10 assist seasons and point seasons of all time, which is just nuts to me.
It's crazy. Yeah. I just showed my wife something the other day about even just Penguins specifically, about all the different scoring titles that they held from, the 90s all the way up and through almost 2000s. Like, it's unreal. And the fact that the only other player is Lemieux, Yager, and then Gretzky. Those are the only 3 that won it over like a course of 20 seasons. That's just insane.
I know. And you don't know this because it hasn't aired yet, but that was Water Bottle's question on the previous episode. I was like, who's the only other player? Because that's the nutty thing. And for someone like you who kind of became a Penguins fan more during like the Crosby era, and Water Bottle too. Like, it's kind of fascinating to tell people like, I hope you recognize that like Malkin Crosby winning the Art Ross like every year is like supposed to be a not normal thing, but also like previous to that, you had Yager Lemieux basically doing it as well. So for like 20 years, you have the best player in the NHL point wise on your team, aside from like 4 other players. That's it. That's nuts. So, enjoy it.
My wife, yeah, absolutely. And my wife and I are super into fantasy hockey. And you mentioned about power play points. Mm-hmm. Like, how the hell do I find a guy that's got that many power play points in a season, please?
Yeah, no kidding. Jeez, it's like
it's crazy.
It's ironically, that's like pretty much how Yager finished out his remaining years in the NHL. Was just like, good luck moving this big butt off of a power play with one less player on it. It's like,
yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, it's the fantasy season's coming up. I'm worried
It's
about
getting
that
close.
too. I'm never all that good at it, but it's always fun. Just like this podcast, it's just another excuse to talk about hockey in some other fashion. So,
Exactly.
on that note, I'll let you get to your draft board predictions and, just really thank you so much for coming on the show. It was so much fun just to talk to you about stuff. And I guess we did mention jerseys every now and then, but honestly, man, thank you so much for your videos in the community. If people are interested in checking those out, they're all under the name Pens Jerseys on YouTube, all one word. And definitely recommend you watch them if you're like me, where you're at the stage now of investing to this level of now sewing your own stuff. So thanks for that. I also want to thank all of our listeners like yourself over the last few months. It's been a lot of fun. If you have any other feedback or suggestions for us, you can hit us up at hockeyjerseyaddicts@gmail.com. We also just launched our website, www.hockeyjerseyaddicts.com. And pretty much planning on throwing up resources there. So Pens jerseys, I'd love to link to all of your videos as a good source. So
Yeah.
keep that in mind. And, just want to say thanks again. And the mic is yours to give any more shout outs, thank yous before we see each other next on a bidding war on eBay. No, just kidding. We're on different teams and stuff. So not worried about that. But thanks again, man.
Yeah, no, thank you. Like I said, I love listening to the different episodes every time they come out. So this was a lot of fun for me. I know it took us a little while to kind of find a date to do this, but it gave me a long time to look forward to it. So, yeah, I had a lot of fun. Like we said earlier, I think probably the biggest takeaway for anybody that's starting out, um, both collecting, just ask. Just who knows? Oh my God, who knows what you're gonna find if you just ask. And then, as far as sewing itself, just find an old T-shirt or whatever that you don't care about. If you got some old numbers or whatever, just give it a go. See what you can do. It's not that hard. Um, there's people all over that are willing to go out of their way to help and answer questions, and I'm one of them. I've gotten quite a few people over the last couple of months after seeing my videos reach out and ask, and I tell them just reach out anytime. It might take me a little bit to get back to you, but by all means, I think it's only right that with all the help that I've been given over the years from different collectors, I kind of do the same thing. So hoping to pay that back.
Cheers, man. And thanks again for joining, and happy holidays. Have a great rest of your time off work. And here's looking forward to 2021.
Yeah, likewise. Same to you, man. Let's get past this 2020.
Yeah. Cheers. Okay. Bye.